Hello again. It's thundering, which is pretty... I hope you can hear it as loud as I can. Pretty perfect because I'm going to somehow keep up with going through each of the songs and explicating the lyrics from In the Garden, which means that today is creation, because I started yesterday with the prologue. I'm not in a house dress, so I'm sorry if that's disappointing for y'all, but I promise you're still seeing me raw because I have still not washed my hair because I did my exercise class last night, and I'm gonna go again tonight, and then I will wash my hair. But I hope this is exciting. I've got Butter here, one of the 4 community cats that I take care of. I TNR'd, which means trap, neuter, release, a cat that sort of got me started into becoming a cat lady. I mean, I've been a cat lady my whole life. I grew up with 2 big indoor Maine Coons. One lived to be 18, the other to be 21. Anyways, long story short, there's cats around, so if I get distracted, that's why. In addition to this signature New Orleans thunder. Indra says, so basically Sugar and Spice, like the whole thing is a bop. Thanks. I really like Sugar and Spice. So In the Garden, which is the album I'm like talking about right now because it's the most recent one and is perhaps like my swan song, which is something that we'll talk about more someday. It was originally supposed to be like my first album, and I just kept not being able to finish it and was like, what is this mythology I've told myself of like the first album has to be like the thesis statement and it has to be like the musical, the narrative. I was like, no, it doesn't. And so then I made Sugar and Spice, and I love it a lot. It actually makes a lot more sense for me as a first album. But we'll talk about that one later if I keep being on here. Indra now says, In the Garden was my introduction to your artistry, and I've done everything till Sugar and Spice. Can't wait to start In the Garden, though. Oh, so you're like me. You go to the beginning, and then you work your way forwards. I like that. I'm chronologically obsessive. Okay, so yesterday I talked about the prologue, which is purposefully in this, like, watery sonic space. Like, there's almost like whale sounds. And in several versions of the Bible, the whale is actually the first, like, named animal that God creates. But in Genesis 1-2, which if y'all didn't grow up reading the Bible like I did, it's the chapter Genesis, the book Genesis, then the chapter Genesis 1, and then the verse 2. And that's how that's broken down. But in almost every version, New International, King James, New King James, in Genesis 1-2, he says, he. Interesting. Now the earth was formless and empty, or formless and void, which is the version I went with to cite in the narration. Darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. So we're in, like, water is, like, in all these versions, is, like, there before even light and darkness. And then God says, let there be light. And so I, like with In the Beginning, how I didn't want to just come out and say In the Beginning, and instead had the narrator say what you're hearing is the story of the beginning. In the Beginning is, like, maybe one of the most famous things from Genesis, in addition to let there be light. So Indra says, the crow, let thy mother speak, for real. I just always hope that they know I'm being nice to them, because, you know, crows can remember people's faces, those who've done acts of kindness or acts of harm. And not only that, they can communicate that to other corvids somehow, which is incredible. But we'll get into crows later in my next TED Talk. So anyways, I knew I had to play on let there be light. And I'm like, how would Frida, who I already knew was going to be the voice of God, say that? And it would be turn the lights on. It's like more casual, like more swaggy, turn the lights on. And I didn't want it to be like the literal verse of let there be light. Because then that just places us in like a too literal biblical space that doesn't feel like loose and swaggy and fun like music that you want to play when you're in the car. So I have God saying, turn the lights on, let's go, Frida's signature, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then the first, like, real verse lyrics are, I am that I am, and I am that power. So of course that's from the Bible, I am that I am. Context, I'm reading from the libretto, which comes with every vinyl. For those of you who just popped in. Several people just got in here. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because I've been meaning to do it for years, because this is how I like to engage with lyrics and text. But also part of the reason is that my lyrics are still not populating to Spotify or Instagram, because Music Match, which is a company that you send your lyrics to that then distributes your lyrics to those platforms, is a shitty corporation. And I've been having a lot of trouble with them. For instance, the prologue, the song I talked about yesterday, is just this long in lyrics. But because it is short, the only way for me to bypass this weird, like, probably digital and not even a real human observing it format error is for me to pay for a specific type of account that then allows me to outsource updating my lyrics to just some person. And it's like, but I wrote these, like, why can't I edit them? And why am I being held hostage to pay for a certain level of an account just to import a song that happens to be short, some arbitrary, like, character limit number they have. Anyways, I'll do separate ventings about, like, what all is wrong with the music industry as an independent artist. I was just reelected to my chapter's board of the Recording Academy. I just finished my first term, which was 2 years. This next term is 4 years, and I'm just planning to just have, like, a flaming fiery sword of, like, I've been platformed a little bit by this really respected organization, and therefore listen to me about all the things that are wrong with this industry. But I've got messages I'm ignoring. Are the vinyls getting exported internationally? I'm from India and I'd love to have one. Yes. I have no idea what happens right now if you order one to be shipped internationally. Like, it might just give you the standard shipping fee, which means I would definitely be, like, eating my money on that one, but, like, just see what happens. Like, go in there, try to buy one, and then message me and let me know if it gives you an error message or something like that. I'll make sure to send it, and that will be really fun to send one that far away. I'll put some interesting postcards and things in there. Victoria says, loving these lyrics. Lord, I might actually have to go to my first record player since 1984. Yes, it's worth listening to on vinyl, I think. Indra says, so I'd like to get into this one. I'm literally a transcriber at Genius. I am called Paper Cut Survivor there. I've been updating your page. Okay, yes. You can always send me the lyrics and I can put them up. Okay. Genius is a whole different thing than Music Match. Genius is something I really do need to get into, and I actually just made a profile and just got a notification that you've been updating lyrics. So let's offline about that, because that's great and I'm so excited about that. I would love to have my things on Genius. Because I'm a genius. No, just kidding. But because the more places that the lyrics are, the more places that's up there attached to the name Boyfriend, the better it is for SEO, search engine optimization. Because I chose a ridiculous name, Boyfriend. It's, like, impossible to search. And so just the more places I can get the data up there, like, the more likely I am to become famous. Okay, let me get back to just talking about these lyrics a little bit more. Okay, I am that I am and I am that power. Then, did it in an hour. So I wanted to break up, again, that literal biblical text with just some sort of swagginess of, like, this version of God is swaggy. Oh, wait, someone says, cuz no shit in Music Match is a terrible site to find the lyrics. Yes, it is. And Music Match is the only way to get your lyrics to be on Instagram or Spotify, which for me is the two main places I would interface with someone's lyrics if you're trying to, like, upload them to a story or blah, blah, blah. I hope y'all are able to hang with how much I am topic jumping around. Probably because you're on social media, so. Okay. I am that I am and I am that's me. I make land out of sea. West and east, bird and beast. All this I overspeed. I just think and things will be, and you know that I am pleased. So that's all straight out of the first verses of Genesis. There's light, darkness, and then it's all water, and then he makes the land. The firmament is the word that's from Genesis. Just scared one of the cats. Rises up and separates the land from the water, and then, which creates the sensation of directions of west and east, and then he creates bird and beast. It was really fun to write this, because I think it really does thread the needle of being very literal in its biblical referencing, but still feeling like swaggy and being true to, like, Frida's voice, who's the main person as a songwriter I write for, other than for my own voice. So I think I have over the years a pretty good idea of, like, how to thread that needle. But I did co-write this with Ryan, who's like my main collaborative partner in life and in other things. And he came up with, and you know that I am pleased, and having the angels say, it's good, I'm pleased, and God says, it's good, I'm pleased. Because at the end of every chunk of what God is creating in Genesis, at the end it says, and God saw that it was good. So it's like, he makes birds and beasts, he saw that it's good. Blah, 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 he saw that it's good. Some weed eating is happening, so I'm going to need y'all to jump in and let me know if you can still hear me. Indra says, I just realized I've actually heard one song off the new album, How Dare You Punish Me for Wanting to Fly. Yes, that song is called Fight. Y'all jump in, let me know if you can still hear me with this noise. Pause for water. Anywho, in one of the versions, it stopped. In one of the versions, it literally says, like, and the Lord God was pleased. In most of them, it just says, and he saw that it was good. So I really like that gives you that, also that sort of swagginess of, like, I made it, I like it, it's good. And so you have this choir of angels come in like, it's good. And God's like, it's pleased. I'm seeing this. God's being like, because this, I mean, really, I think if you read Genesis, he's kind of like flexing, and particularly with Frida being that version of God. And so then he's like, it's good to please. No, rest until I sleep, because we know from Genesis that he doesn't sleep until the seventh day. I flex my expertise. It's good, I'm pleased. So that's those words. Uh-oh, wait, what'd you say? We can hear you, great. And then here's the verse where Frida gets, where all the music kind of breaks down and it's more articulate, which is my favorite type of thing to write, because I'm able to rap really quickly. And so I like always writing those for other people, and it gets challenging to be like, can you do it? Peter Piper picked a peck of, I pick up the pieces and put them together. I'm making it rain. I'm gonna call that shit weather. So that is also just an example. That's also a Ryan line of how fun it is to take the sort of grandiosity of the verses of Genesis and then just like put it in today's lingo of like, I'm making it rain. I'm gonna call that shit weather. It makes it like casual. And I like the idea of the grandiosity being constantly counterbalanced with the nonchalance, because ultimately, like, nonchalance is the swaggiest thing that you can do to sort of lord your power over people. Like, whatever, no big deal, thunderbolt. Getting, yes, we can hear you, yes, we can hear you, yes, okay, great. And I'm almost done. I don't know if this is even interesting to y'all, I'm just doing it. Okay. I'm making it rain. I'm gonna call that shit weather. Come fish and come feather, because it talks about how he creates beasts for the land, the sea, and the sky. Come zephyr, come rain. Ooh, Zephyr. Loved the opportunity to put Zephyr in a song. And like that's the internal rhyme. So even so it's together, weather, feather, Zephyr, even though we're now switching to a new end rhyme. So together, weather, feather, Zephyr is the beginning of that next line that's actually switching us to rain, day, contain, say. Did I lose y'all? Is this too weird? Someone says, Indra, I'd like to ask you a question. How do you manage to write all these tongue-twisting, phenomenal lines? Like, I could never have thought of something and you'd have a song with that lyric. Well, I was an English major, and my dad's a songwriter, and so is my sister, and so is my stepmom. And so I think that, like, reading and writing was just sort of like what I was always doing, and I had a really great education. I'm, like, super privileged to have had an incredible education. So I think that's a lot of it. But thanks for the compliments. And I'm so glad that you do stuff for Genius, because that's the thing where it really can get... Genius is the only place to me, or rather the most centralized, like, accessible place where people do go and engage with lyrics in this way and, like, cite them and talk about rhyme schemes and all of that. And I haven't really ever had my stuff on there, even though all of it is, like, definitely holds up to being explicated in that way. So I'm really glad to be connecting with you about putting that on there. Indra says... referencing Kanye's line from Monster. Which, like, fuck Kanye, whatever. Okay. we were in the rhyme switch. Comes ever come rain, dark and then light, I'ma call that a day. Heaven and earth, all of this will contain the whole universe. So there's the internal rhyme again with heaven and earth. Heaven and earth, all of this will contain the whole universe. Will rehearse three internal rhymes. What I say, or I'll wash it away. Someday it may happen. So now we're switching rhyme again. So from the end rhyme of day contains say, now switches to an internal rhyme, I'll wash it away. Someday it may happen. We're now switching the end rhyme to happen. For now, I'm going to create an Eve and an Adam. Adam, you need a 2-syllable word to end that. And I purposely put like Eve first because you always hear Adam and Eve created man, then woman, male, then female. And it was like, nope, not in this version. And that's why the next song that happens is Eve being created, not Adam being created. And then it goes back into the chorus of the It's Good, I'm Pleased, which I love so much. The angels are being so big and wonderful. And I wrote this with Ryan, who I've mentioned with the specific lyrical lines. Joe Shirley, who's an incredible, what do you call it? Composer. Yeah, composer. Does all sorts of impressive film scores, like movie magic, like Star Wars and shit. Hence the ability for this to be very cinematic. So that's how I started the song, and then we started working on it with Miles and Owen, which is the duo called Gold Glove that I've done a ton of music on. They've got the majority of the credits on Sugar and Spice, and then we've done like entire projects for Big Freedia together. Changing the narrative single-handedly, in theory. At least changing it for some that listen. So last thing I'll say about this song is at the very end, there's this Freedia ad-lib. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And I love just the way that Freedia happened to pronounce it was earth in that moment. And that was actually something that was tracked during Curse, a completely different song, completely different tone. Just like a in the booth off the cuff thing, while we were getting like mic levels. And so I was like, let's grab that and let's try it either at the beginning or at the end of creation. And that's like part of the like infuriating crazy making aspect of like actually finishing an album, is that especially over the course of all these years, is that there's just like so many different folders of files and so many different recording sessions. And since I do vocal production for Freedia, I'm used to like watching the waveforms and knowing like, let's grab that ad lib, let's throw that over here, blah blah blah. But that still means you have to keep track of where it is. It's like so much of music, so much of everything is about organization, including like digital organization. And so that one was really tricky because I kept being like, we have to hold on to that ad lib, we have to find that ad lib, we have to, and it was one of the last things like to get placed in the song. And of course would be remiss not to mention the choir of angels that you're actually hearing, which is Maggie Kerner, AJ Haynes, Rayon Ramsey, and Clint Majan. I'll do like a whole separate thing to talk about them, I think. But if you're like a New Orleans music jazz fest aficionado, you will probably know all of those people. They're all like artists in their own right, and it was incredible to have them. And I also sang in the choir, and just with the 5 of us doing sax, we sound like this really big choir, which is fun. Let's see. Hello, hello, hello. I think I've been on here long enough and like jerking off to my own shit long enough, so I'm gonna go. But as I told y'all, my biggest consistency is inconsistency, so maybe I'll be back on tomorrow to talk about the next thing. Maybe I won't. But I really appreciate y'all for tuning in, and I'll really try to wash my hair next time. Bye, y'all.